Would you believe me if I told you that here in more recent times, in modern times, I'm speaking, that there was an actual attempt to secede from the Union?
What?
That's right. Here in this obscure little town in Wisconsin, a town that I guarantee the majority of people outside of Wisconsin and the Midwest have likely never heard of it before. There was an actual, real attempt to break away from the Union, or at the very least, from the state of Wisconsin. According to this book, Oddball Wisconsin, which, by the way, I want to give a quick shout out to whomever left this for me. Thank you. It's a very useful guide. But as I was saying, according to this book, Winneconne, the town or village of Winneconne, at one time tried to secede from the state of Wisconsin. Talk about a strange or bizarre event in Wisconsin's history. Hey sightseers, Sightseeing Sally here. Today I'm going to show you around Winneconne and share this bizarre tale while showing you some of Winneconne's most notable features. To kick things off, I thought we'd start over by the Winneconne Historical Society Museum Complex, which was established in 1976 post-secession attempt, with the idea that perhaps we may find more information related to the bizarre tale. Unfortunately, and no, I did not intentionally plan it this way, but as our luck would have it, this place is only open on Sundays and not at all during the week. Wah, 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 wah. What can I say? My timing always seems to be a day late and $1 short, and there's not much I can do about it because when I have the time, I come out, and well, unfortunately, it didn't work out that way for me. I'm just a one-person or one-woman operation here with the occasional help of meandering Marty between you, me, and the railing here. I don't make enough here on YouTube to ensure that the stars align perfectly every single time we come out to a place to visit. All right, enough about that. Over here you can see that they've got the old railroad depot set up on the edge of the historical complex. According to the placard, the Milwaukee and St. Paul Railroad reached Winneconne in 1868. This map here shows what the village of Winneconne looked like 2 years later in 1878. Apparently, this man here, known as David P. Mapes, had visions to make Winneconne a major lumber town. Mapes, along with other investors, tried to create a railroad, the Wolf River Railroad, and have the line run from Ripon to Winneconne in an attempt to cut off the supply before it reached the lumber mills in Oshkosh. Unfortunately, though, Mapes was only able to finance the project as far as Amarillo and eventually went bankrupt. The Milwaukee and St. Paul Railroad eventually bought the line and finished it to include Winneconne on the route. For whatever reason, Winneconne never made it big as a lumbering town. It did, however, have a key role in the agricultural market locally and eventually became a resort area for all the hunting and fishing that could be done around here. So far, I haven't seen anything in this historical complex that talks about the secession. Let's see what's over here at this next building to see if they've got any info further beyond what I got in my book. According to the sign that's here, this little house was part of the Children's Country Home, which was previously located in the county park area. And in 1976, they moved it to Marble Park as part of a bicentennial project which is also when they brought this stone here, which, according to the plaque, moved from Concord, Massachusetts to Winneconne, Wisconsin in commemoration of the American Revolution bicentennial year. Now, I know what you're thinking, sightseers. None of what I've shown you so far suggests a town that would be so rebellious as to start a secession process against its very own state. Yet, I can assure you that I'm not making this story up. First, however, let's check out the old schoolhouse here, which was built in 1889 by St. Peter's congregation. According to the sign, it was the town of Winchester's schoolhouse, and it was a gift from Alfred Zomer. Good old Alfred wanted to preserve the history of the one-room schoolhouse here in Wisconsin. According to the placard that's here, prior to statehood, the ability to form schools within the Wisconsin Territory came from the Northwest Ordinances of 1785 and 1787. As Wisconsin gained statehood, the Wisconsin School Law of 1848 authorized newly formed townships to fund local rural schools. Rural schools' popularity peaked in the 1930s, but soon after World War II, school districts all across Wisconsin began to consolidate and close smaller schools. By the 1960s, the one-room schoolhouses were no longer in use in Wisconsin. Some of you sightseers may recall the video that I did on Lena and the one-room schoolhouse there. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the Lena Schoolhouse was one of the last operating schools in Wisconsin, one of the last operating one-room schools in Wisconsin. But of course, none of this school talk explains anything related to the bizarre story of the secession attempt by those folks in power in Winneconne. Unless, of course, you want to blame it on their education or lack of it. Not that I'm trying to throw any shade around, just attempting to add a little levity to the story. Speaking of stories, I never fully explained the story behind the children's country home. Since I've got this informative placard here, why don't I get into that now, and then afterwards, I promise, I will finally share the bizarre details behind the story of Winneconne's secession attempt. According to the placard, the Children's Country Home was a non-denominational foster care home that operated in Winneconne between the years of 1929 and 1943. It was privately financed by prominent Neenah, Menasha, and Oshkosh business and socialite families. And this particular building here, this house, was used as the infirmary and I guess as a storage facility at that Children's Country Home. Here on the placard, they have a picture of a group of boys posing on a hay wagon. Originally, the facility was known as the Adams School for Boys and Girls, but because of the farming operations that happened there, they later changed it to reflect that. We're now up over in the downtown, or what would be considered the downtown portion of Winneconne. As you can see, they've got a real estate office over there, a drinking establishment or tavern on the corner over here, a supper club up over on this corner, and an eating and drinking establishment known as the Village Pub over here. Funny, there isn't anything out of the ordinary, nothing to suggest rebel-rousers and other sorts of people looking to secede from their state. And yet, I believe we may be in the vicinity of where this all went down. Or at least fairly close. This complex was built, as you can see by the sign, in 1999, whereas this bizarre tale took place in the summer of 1967. Picture this, summer 1967, on a sunny day, much like today, and the most recent edition of the Wisconsin State Highway Map has been just published And to everyone's surprise, Winneconne has been left off the map. Egad, how could that possibly happen? That our state would forget to include this wonderful town. As you can imagine, the local citizenry were outraged. How dare they forget to include Winneconne on the map? Then, on June 22nd, they seceded. The locals drafted a Declaration of Independence and sent it off to our governor, and erected a toll bridge on Route 116 over the Wolf River. Somewhere right about here or so. Don't quote me on that. I don't have the exact location because this bridge that you see here was replaced somewhere, I believe, around 2018. There are remains of that bridge located in the park, in that historical complex that we visited earlier in the video. There you can learn all about the history of the bridges that once spanned the Wolf River here in Winneconne. But don't get your hopes up, sightseers. It's very likely you won't find any mention of the fact that at one time, in June of 1967, the people here enacted a toll and erected a toll booth on the bridge, making people pay to cross over into their newly formed republic or state of Winneconne. The book doesn't get into those details. If you look it up on Wikipedia, there is more information. For instance, according to the proclamation issued by village president James Coughlin, Vera Kitchen was to be prime minister and custodian of Vera's kitchen cabinet. Even a flag was created featuring the new republic's mascots, a skunk, a dodo, a sheep's head, and poison ivy. Of course, it didn't take long before the governor got wind or was informed about what had happened here in Winneconne, and of course, he made sure that the map was updated to include the town. That wasn't all. In an urgent telegram, Governor Knowles agreed to have signs placed at Highways 41 and 110, directing motorists to the community. Additionally, Winneconne visitor brochures had to be displayed in all state tourist promotion centers. The townspeople were satisfied that their demands had been met, and on June 23rd, they rescinded their Declaration of Independence. Wow, what a crazy story, huh? Who would have thought something so strange and bizarre would have occurred here in Wisconsin? But it did. Interestingly enough, they still celebrate the fact that Winneconne tried to secede from Wisconsin with their annual Secession Days festival. Had I known about the festival prior to today, I would have made every attempt to attend. Moving on, you can see they have this really cool looking restaurant, Riverside, butted up against the Wolf River, made to look like an old steamboat. Believe it or not, steamboats used to be a part of Winneconne's early history. But before I get into that, I have a few shout-outs to give. First, I want to say thank you again to whomever left me this book. I have no idea who left it for me. It was just put on my doorstep with no note. So thank you. I hope you're watching. Next, I'd like to give a shout out of thanks to Jack P. from Massachusetts. Jack not only generously tipped our trip jar, but he also sent this lovely card and magnet after Mocha's passing. It really means a lot. I'd also like to give a shout out of thanks to Sue, Mike, Bell, and Tater from Illinois. Sue, Mike, Bell, and Tater have been big supporters of our channel also. And in Mocha's memory, they generously tipped our trip jar. I also would like to give a shout out of thanks to Alicia and Jim from Oceanside, California, and John from Rock Falls, Illinois, for also generously tipping our tip jar. Next, I'd like to give a shout out of thanks to the following individuals for becoming sightseeing sidekicks here on YouTube. If I've forgotten anybody, please let me know. Please forgive me. The last few weeks, months have been rather and well, let's just say I might be a bit tad forgetful these days because of all the stress. Regardless, I just want to say thank you. You guys rock. We really appreciate all your support because, again, without you, we wouldn't be able to get to all these awesome places across America and share these really fascinating stories with you. I spy something that caught my little eye. Care to guess what it is, sightseers? If you caught the sign here, you guessed right. And it's talking about how there used to be a theater here in this very location called the Lake Theater. It was built in the 1940s and closed, I believe, in the 1960s. And do you know what the cost to attend this movie theater was in 1952? Care to take a gander at that? It was 14 cents for children, 35 cents for students, and a mere 50 cents for adults. When in your lifetime have you ever paid prices like that? Me? Probably never. I think the cheapest that I've ever paid to see a movie was maybe $2 for the cheap seats. But I don't think I ever paid only 50 cents. For some of you, however, you may remember a time when it was that cheap. But I won't hold it against you. During the 1840s, steam-powered ships traveled the Mississippi and Wisconsin waterways, including the Wolf River. Over in Winneconne's historical complex at the edge of Marble Park, you can find the remains of one of these old steamboats inside what is now known as the Steamboat House. Adjacent to the Historical Society complex is the Arthur Marble Memorial Park. Here you can do all sorts of fun things, from swimming to pickleball to teetering on your totter. To swinging on swings. Gee, how Wisconsin is that? To have a bar stool sitting right next to the walking trail, which is overlooking the watering spot, the local watering hole. Oh my, you can't get any more Wisconsin than that. Anyways, this is where you can come swim any day of the week except Monday here in Winneconne. Next up, the Winneconne Pioneer Cemetery. Established by private landowners in 1850, this cemetery was founded on land acquired from the Menominee Nation. Also known as the Old West Side Cemetery, this cemetery holds the remains of families who perished during the diphtheria and scarlet fever outbreaks between, I think, 1850 and 1870. The last burial to happen here was in 1873. You can see it is just a small cemetery here, surrounded by homes on either side. Across the street, there's homes, and from the sounds of it, a little dog that wants to make his presence known. It's hard to read a lot of these headstones. I believe this one, 1866. This one is from 1869. From what I was reading, this was not only a place for mourning, but also where children came and played, where families picnicked back in the day. I think I've talked about that in other videos, where cemeteries were often places where families came and spent the afternoon picnicking at the gravesite of a loved one. Contrast the old Pioneer Cemetery with what is now the Winneconne Cemetery that was established in 1872. You can see a huge difference not only in the amount of memorials here, but also the size of them. Look at this one, representing the Cove family plot. Then there's the Bancrofts. Or how about this ornately decorated headstone for the Calkins? Judging by these headstones, there must have been some really well-to-do families that lived in Winneconne back in the day. As you can see from here, as part of the Bicentennial Project, the cemetery was restored and rededicated. And that's basically Winneconne in a nutshell. The Wisconsin town, village, and its bizarre story of how one day the officials here in Winneconne had enough of its tyrannical governor and decided to secede from the state. Until next time.